Welcome, my friends. I am so glad to have you here. It's wonderful to see new and familiar faces. There we go. Okay. Thank you for joining me. It's so fun to be with everyone. I appreciate you making time for this in your day. Just to let you know how Zoom works, if you've not come into Zoom before, it's a really fantastic tool. And that being said, I have put the mute option and I've closed down the video option on everybody's capabilities so that at this point in time, you're just seeing me, and that'll give me an opportunity to kind of launch this training and this coaching call. And then as we move forward, for sure, I'm going to allow for plenty of time for interaction and questions and comments. As I do move forward, if you have a question or a comment, I've opened the chat box. And if you look in the bottom of your screen, you will see a little bubble that says chat. You're welcome to put information in there, and I will do my best to keep my eye on that and engage in the moment as it is appropriate. Okay, I am Samantha Nielsen. I am a weight loss and life coach certified with the Life Coach School. I have been coaching for some time now, and it is just one of my passions. I love coaching. I love being able to help people make sense of their thoughts and their feelings, to identify what's going on that is serving them well in their lives, and to make minor adjustments in areas that are not serving them well in their lives. In addition to doing this coaching call, I always like to add a little bit of value. And so I do have a very small 10 to 15 minute presentation I'm going to offer you as a bonus. And so I want to move through that material. If you have thoughts or questions that come up in that material, feel free to jot them down or to put a little comment into the side. And then once I share the bonus material that I want to offer to everybody, we will open it up for Q&A, and we'll keep this call to 1 hour. So again, thank you for joining me. I'm so pleased to see so many familiar and friendly faces on the line. That being said, I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. Share. Okay, excellent. Today I wanted to give you an opportunity to learn about compelling reasons and commitment. Interestingly enough, in our lives, when we want to create a change, a lot of times we need a very strong, compelling reason to help us move forward in taking action. Oftentimes, we feel trapped and stuck in what I call the motivational triad. Now, the motivational triad is it's not new to a lot of my coaching clients, but it may be new to some of you who've not heard of these concepts before. Really, it's the internal conflicts that we experience with our natural man. So the motivational triad is our primitive state wherein we desire to seek pleasure, we desire to avoid pain, and we desire to exert the least amount of energy possible when engaging in things that are hard. The motivational triad, that's what it looks like when we want to sit on the couch, eat potato chips, and watch Netflix. That's the motivational triad at work, and it keeps us in a place of stagnation rather than moving forward and engaging in our goals and asking better of ourselves. A lot of times I like to use the example of Saturday morning chores. We see the motivational triad in full force when it comes to Saturday morning and we're trying to get our family on board in coming to do the yard work or cleaning the garage or doing their weekly chores. All of a sudden, no one is anywhere to be found. The kids are hiding out in the playroom. Maybe they're under the covers in their bed, or maybe they've gotten to work in helping to clean out the garage, but you're getting about 50% effort. This is the motivational triad at work. So it's a very real thing. It's a very real challenge and a real obstacle that we as humans struggle with. And it doesn't get any easier just because we get older. No, it does not. We have to really ask better of ourselves in engaging in that higher level of commitment and that higher level of clarity in what we're trying to accomplish so we can overcome and push through the motivational triad. Okay, it's such a fascinating concept. And if you pause to think about it and you pause to think about what challenges you the most in your life right now, for instance, maybe putting on your walking shoes, or maybe saying no to flour and sugar, or maybe honoring your time commitments on your schedule, then you know you've had experience with the motivational triad. Okay, that being said, we want to really ask better of ourselves, and we really want to challenge ourselves to come to that next level of refinement, that next level of improvement. And this is where a compelling reason and a commitment can be so powerful. When we identify something that we want to change in our lives, we need to have a very powerful why. The stronger our why, and the stronger that we are in tune with our why, the more compelled we will be to take action, to honor our commitments, and make progress. In defining our why, there are three things that can help support doing the work to uncover the why in your life. When you identify your desire, that automatically is going to put a little fuel behind your fire in getting excited about your compelling reason and the new goal that you're striving to achieve. In identifying your desire, you then need to nurture your belief that you are capable of doing these things, that you really want this better outcome. And then from this space of belief, you have to take action in honoring your commitment. You have to be on board and do what is required, even when it's not easy. I have a phrase that I lean on a lot. And in fact, I have it on my wall here in the corner. That's why I'm looking to the side. It says, do the responsible and useful thing for yourself, even when you don't feel like it. And that's what we have to ask of ourselves and be committed in doing in order to put that compelling reason into motion and help us to up-level our lives and create something new, better, and different. So when we find that compelling reason and we find that why, then we need to take care of it like an infant. We need to really nurture it and tend to it, and we need to really just be attentive to it in really fostering all those levels of care that it's going to need to get us through the difficulties of making it happen. Okay, in speaking of the little toddlers and the cute darlings in our lives, a lot of times we have seen this process at work when it comes to the cute little babies that we do surround ourselves with. We are familiar with this process of building desire, of nurturing belief, and engaging with commitment. And think about those toddlers. The first time they press up and lift themselves off the floor and they're taking those first initial steps, we don't dismiss their efforts at all. The moment they get engaged and they start to take that initiative, we're behind them 100%. We see their desire, we support their belief, and we get behind them with commitment in encouraging them to make progress and engage in this new activity, in this new way of showing up for themselves, and in building their confidence. And so it is with us. The first time we're doing something new, we really are going to be 100% on board in supporting those initial steps for success. Now, when you find your compelling reason and you want to create change in your life, you have to recognize that, you know what, the why, the only reason that why matters is because of how you feel about it and what you want to see happen in your life. The why in your life doesn't have to be noble. It doesn't have to be grand. You don't have to set up a charity in order to provide, clean drinking water to a third world country. And it doesn't have to be really, really sophisticated. If it's important to you and it gets you excited about doing something new and better for yourself, then that's all that matters. I know for me, when I was moving through my weight loss journey, my compelling reason was I wanted to fit into some jeans that were just one size down in what I had available to me in my closet. For me, that was enough to keep my compelling reason in alignment and to keep my commitment in alignment as well. It wasn't a noble reason that I was sharing with others and that I was, broadcasting or trying to generate validation for. As you can see, the second point on my slide, in nurturing our why is your opinion of what you're doing and your validation of your why and your compelling reason is all that matters. You don't need anyone else's approval to take action and move forward in honoring that compelling reason and in building that commitment. If you believe in your reason and if you love and own that reason 100%, then you're going to have the fire that you need and the fuel behind that fire to really take action and create new and better things for yourself in your life. The compelling reason and really dialing in that compelling reason is going to be powerful. And I would encourage you to do some writing and some thought work around that so that you can keep yourself in alignment and keep nurturing and developing that belief even further. Now, in fine-tuning your compelling reason, sometimes it's good for us to put a deadline or some type of a marker on our compelling reason as to why we're doing what we're doing. Let me give you a concrete example. I decided I was going to run a 5K with my son, and it was just right before Christmas. In knowing that I got committed and signed up to an event, I was able to create a timeline of action and a timeline of commitment in order to keep myself excited and fueled in honoring my why. So I was able to use this calendar and having a tool in place and at my disposal to support my commitment and help me to empower myself and stay in alignment with my desire. I had to recognize that I was going to have urges, I was going to have desires, I was going to have excuses surface in this space, and then I had to be ready to meet those obstacles and really have my commitment in tune with being able to overcome those indulgences and those objections when they came to the surface. So in having a timeline associated with my commitment, it really helped to keep me on track in honoring the commitment and supporting my compelling reason for change. So as you find this compelling reason and you're doing the thought work behind the why and why it's important, see if you can dial it in and make it even a little tighter and attach a goal to it, attach a timeline to it, or attach some form of accountability, and that will support you in moving forward and then pushing through those obstacles that will present themselves as you're asking better of yourself. Okay, I love this quote from Jim Rohn, the difference between success and failure. Now, failure is a few errors of judgment repeated every day. When we stop to think about that, when we let ourselves off the hook and we allow ourselves to slip in our level of commitment and we allow ourselves to give in to indulgences every now and then, that's what's going to put us on the side of the spectrum of encouraging and supporting failure. We're not going to see progress because we're indulging in justifications. We're indulging in obstacles. We're indulging in thoughts of self-doubt and self-defeat. This is too hard. I can't do this. It's my son's birthday. I had a hard night. I didn't get a lot of rest. And so if we allow ourselves to slip into those spectrums of failure just a little bit every single day, then we're creating obstacles and roadblocks that are going to work against us in honoring compelling reason and in honoring commitment. Likewise, the contrast is that success is built upon a few simple disciplines that we practice every single day. And with that being said, we need to make sure that we keep our thoughts and our emotions very clean and focused, and that we are practicing constraint as we're moving forward in honoring our commitments and in honoring our compelling reason for doing better in our lives. Know that there is a cumulative effect. There is a snowball effect that comes into place when we're on the side of success with that spectrum, when we are honoring our simple decisions, when we are showing up for ourselves, and we are holding ourselves accountable. That's when we're going to start to see traction, and we're going to experience that progress and really move forward in a positive way in what we want to accomplish. Making our decisions ahead of time, wow, this is such a powerful tool. When we simply make our decisions ahead of time and we don't indulge in limbo, we don't indulge in question, and we don't indulge in thoughts of doubt and self-defeat, then we're on the path to success. For many of us, we've already decided that we're not participating in recreational drugs, right? That's a decision we made ahead of time. It's just a no. We decided that a long time ago. We weighed the pros and cons of that option in our lives, and we got very clean in owning that decision. Likewise, as you're finding your compelling reason and as you're working to honor commitments in your lives, do the thought work, do the writing, do the process of going through your pros and cons of making those decisions ahead of time, and then own it. Owning your decisions will give you so much freedom, and it will increase the success that you'll experience in creating new results for your life. I have this fun little slide in here just to remind us that oftentimes temptation can be very attractive and it can be very appealing. And while it can look like a really inviting option, it always works against us. Weight loss is a very easy one for me to speak to because we more or less all of us can relate to the challenges that can come with weight loss. And a lot of times it's very easy to say, oh, but this one just won't hurt. Or it's a special occasion. I have a banquet I'm attending, and I've worked really hard to support my department, and I want to celebrate. So know that that's going to be our brain tricking us and trying to give us those thoughts of justification and rationalization to keep us in that space of the motivational triad. We have to be a little bit more aware. We have to be more thoughtful, and we have to be more in tune and committed with what our true desire is. Friends, you're going to experience discomfort on both sides of the spectrum. You're going to experience discomfort if you indulge and you don't honor your commitment, and then you're going to have lots of baggage and lots of negative thought drama that's going to come. You're going to experience discomfort in saying no. However, it's going to be a short-lived discomfort, and you're actually going to feel so much better about yourself in pushing through that discomfort of saying no in the moment, because what you're really doing is you're saying yes to the bigger goal that lies ahead of you, and you're saying yes to who you truly want to be, and you're supporting that better version of yourself. Okay, the beautiful thing that comes through having a compelling reason and honoring your commitments is that you're building your relationship with yourself. You're reestablishing that level of trust that's been in question, or maybe it's been lacking. You're increasing your confidence in your ability to do hard things and to really show up from a clean space in honoring yourself and honoring your commitments. And you're following through on your word. And every time we do that, we're adding a win to our side of the chart. We're adding a win to the bucket of self-confidence and evidence in that we can do hard things and that we matter and that our compelling reason is important. Remember, no one else has to approve or validate the compelling reason that we have for wanting to change what we want to change in our lives. If we believe in it and we honor it and we support it, that's what matters most. Our compelling reason, when partnered with commitment, is a guaranteed win-win formula for increasing our confidence and increasing our happiness. I have a few questions that I'm going to share with you, and these questions I have available in a takeaway as well. So if you're interested in having this worksheet, send me an email. I'd be very happy to pass it along to you. The questions are, can you be one of those who frees yourself from the struggle to experience a stronger, compelling reason and self-connection and level of self-commitment in your life? Another one that I have to share with you is honoring commitments can be hard in the moment. It may go against your deepest instinct, and you'll naturally desire to seek pleasure and avoid pain. What is your strategy to overcome these self-defeating emotions? And then a final thought is that I'm not teaching you how to better resist and control yourself through instinct. Rather, I'm teaching you how to take purposeful action. It is a higher way of loving yourself. Write to and speak to one experience and one success that you've created in your life wherein you have honored your higher self. Those are just a few examples of the questions and the thought work that's available through my commitment worksheet. If you'd like to take advantage of that again, please send me an email. I'd be so happy to share this with you. There's about 10 questions on here. I just highlighted a few of them. But I want to let you know that the beautiful thing about engaging with the worksheets and doing the writing that I spoke to over the course of this small teaching segment is it allows you to see your thoughts and allows you to dial in on those thoughts that are creating support and nurturing your belief and nurturing your compelling reason and your commitment. And it also allows you to see where your mind drama sits, and it allows you to kind of question your thoughts and really be reflective of what's working and what's not working for you in your life. Friends, this is what I have for you on compelling reasons and commitments. I am going to make this replay available as well. So please drop me an email if you want to have this replay also. This short teaching segment could be just what you need to help set yourself on fire in dialing in that compelling reason and really starting to take action to create something new and better for yourselves. Okay, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we could engage in that together. I do want to take this opportunity to let you know that we can take some one-on-one coaching calls in this moment. I have a few emails that were sent in. What I will need you to do is, if you want to be coached, go ahead and drop a note into this chat, into the side, or you can take your video off and raise your hand, and then I can unmute you, and we can let you come on camera and share a thought that you might have that you'd like to be coached on. So I'm going to actually just type something here on the side so you can see that the chat box is open. Okay, and we have quite a few people on the line. I know sometimes coming in and being coached live can be a really vulnerable thing to do. So I will go ahead and speak to one of the questions that came into me, and I will coach to this particular question that came in to me from my friend Chandra. She sent me a question, and she said, I had a banquet over the weekend wherein lots of desserts were available. I indulged with these desserts, and now I'm experiencing feelings of defeat. Okay, all right. So Chandra, with this, you mentioned that you indulged in some desserts over the weekend because you had a banquet event available, and now you're experiencing feelings of defeat. I would ask you to question yourself as to the why. Why are you feeling these feelings of defeat? What specifically are you making it mean that you indulged in some desserts over the weekend? And did you have a plan? Did you have a success plan in place ahead of going to this banquet to help you guarantee your success and to work through those obstacles? Our thoughts are always optional when we're met with opposition, when we're met with challenge. And so the more that you choose to think that you indulged and you experienced defeat, the more that's going to contribute to the feelings of failure. So when you have this thought, I indulged in desserts and am experiencing feelings of defeat, I would ask you what kind of emotion that triggers. Oftentimes, I think that can trigger an emotion of disappointment, failure, or being defeated. None of those emotions are going to fuel you or support you in a positive way. When we experience defeat and failure and disappointment, those emotions, it usually fuels us into more negative action. And from feeling those emotions, then you may continue to indulge and repeat that negative cycle of indulging and perpetuating that belief that you're not capable of doing hard things. And the result is that you're going to continue in this negative spiral and increase your belief that you're not capable of honoring your commitments. So rather than sitting in this space, I would ask you to decide what you want as an outcome and to focus in on that future outcome and create ways that you can support yourself in doing better and showing up better and creating an action plan so that you can be more prepared to support yourself in those challenging circumstances. Come back into this video and watch that particular segment where I spoke to decisions ahead of time. A lot of times when we make our decisions in advance and we decide how we're going to show up, then we take away that mental negotiation that can come into place that can throw us off of our plan. And when we've already made that decision and when we're on board with our commitments in advance, it can guarantee greater success, and we eliminate the drama and the negative thoughts that help us, that keep us wavering in our level of commitment. Thank you, Chandra. Okay, all right. Do we have anyone? Okay, Miley. I notice myself resisting pre-planning in what I will eat when it comes to the holiday events. So I end up eating more than I really want to. Okay, Miley, would you like to come on and be coached with this, or would you like me to just take it from the comment box? I'm going to pull your video on, Miley. Okay, if you click on start video, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute you as well. Okay, there we go. All right, Miley, let me read this one more time, and then I'm going to ask you if you can give me a specific example and let me know more about your thoughts that sit behind this. again, for our the rest of our friends that are sitting in, you shared, I notice myself resisting the pre-planning when it comes to what I will eat and comes to the holiday events. I end up eating more than I really want to. Okay. Miley, go ahead and share more about that with us, please.
Okay, well, with Memorial Day over the weekend, it just helped me see, like, I've noticed every holiday that we've had recently, and now rehearing about the motivational triad, I think it totally fits in with that I have thoughts like, well, I just want to be able to have fun when I'm at, say, the barbecue, and I don't want to have to like think through ahead of time what might be there, and what if I plan one thing, but there was something else there that I didn't know about, and then I'll be disappointed. So it's like the avoiding pain. Like I'll feel disappointed if I don't get to have carrot cake if I didn't know carrot cake was going to be there ahead of time. And so I just find myself, I haven't been pre-planning on holidays at all. I do great on normal days, but if it's a day that is like a special event, I just choose not to pre-plan at all so that I don't, but then at the end of the day, I don't feel as good because I know that I ate more than I really wanted to.
Okay. So your thought is, I don't feel as good at the end of the day because I didn't pre-plan on how to handle my holidays. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this thought, I don't feel as good as I want to at the end of the day because I didn't pre-plan on how to handle the holiday. All right. Let's look at that thought for a moment. When you have that thought and you recognize that this is a belief and it's also been an action, what kind of emotion does it fuel for you?
Probably disappointment, I think. Disappointment in myself.
Okay. All right. So you're recognizing that you don't feel good at the end of the day because you didn't pre-plan, and consequently you were wavering in your commitment, and you were allowing yourself to be at the effect of the event rather than you being in charge of your choices and taking control of the scenario, right?
Yeah.
And in experiencing this disappointment, then what does that cause you to choose to do with your behaviors or not do?
Let's see. Like in the moment, I feel like I just feel already kind of defeated. So instead of just sticking with the one slice of carrot cake, it's like, well, I might as well have a little more because I already fell through on my commitment to myself. So I might as well just have a little more too.
Okay. Okay. So you open up that window and you allow yourself to indulge in more sweets, and you allow yourself to not only experience, one setback, but you kind of compound it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And when you take that position and you're engaging in your holiday event in that way, and you're like, well, I've already kind of gotten off track once, and so it's okay if I get off track just a little bit more. What's the end result that you experience for you?
I guess I don't feel very good at the end of the day because I overate. I had too many sweets. And so I just really don't feel good.
Yes. Yes. And you also create more evidence in this space that, guess what? I don't really pre-plan on the holidays, and so I don't have a terrific outcome, and I don't feel good at the end of the day, right? The result is that you don't honor the commitment, and you end up creating more of this evidence to support that it's hard to pre-plan on these holidays and honor your commitments. Okay, so it's so fascinating for us to see these things and to be objective to these things, and really, it's just an opportunity for learning. It's an opportunity for us to be aware of where things are working in our lives and where things are not working in our lives, and not necessarily attach a lot of our self-worth to this particular event. Now, that being said, is there something different that you would want to experience knowing that you've had this side of the contrast come about? Oh, did I lose you, Miley?
Sorry, I had some little kids come in and need help for a second.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
That's okay. You've been able to really have a full experience in this side of the spectrum, in having the contrast of what doesn't serve you well. And we don't want to spend too much time and energy there, because we know that could just lead to more self-defeat and more self-doubt and a negative downward spiral. What is it that you want to take away from this experience? Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. Kids are welcome.
I guess I'd rather just like renew my commitment to the pre-planning, because I know on normal days I feel so much better with the pre-planning. So I'd rather, instead of dwelling on the negative, use this to fuel my commitment, that even on those days that I stay committed to my plan.
Okay. You want to renew your commitment. Okay. And so in wanting to renew your commitment and knowing that serves you better, is that something, is the discomfort something that you're willing to sit in order to honor this different outcome that you're asking for yourself? I can coach to this with your microphone off if you'd like me to. You know, what you're doing is you're recognizing that you are going to have to sit through and process a different kind of discomfort that's going to ask better of you. I'm not telling you it's going to be fun. And I'm not going to fool you and say that it's going to be easy, because we all know that in asking the better of ourselves, it requires a conscious and a very thoughtful effort. It requires us to do what's hard and say no to that primitive self. And we're saying no to the seeking pleasure that our natural state desires, right? But I do want to offer you that when you start to gain experience in that side of renewing your commitment and honoring your plan, the more often that you do it, the easier it's going to get, and the less power and the less control your indulgent side will have over you. It takes repeated efforts. If we could learn these things just one time through and like master it the first time through, that would be amazing. But because we're humans and because we have human experiences, we get to experience that contrast of failure and success a lot. We really have to set ourselves up for and put all of our advantages on our side in the space of success, because slipping into that motivational triad and into our primitive self is there's going to be a strong pull there. And it's what we know, and it's what we've practiced and done for so long. So it really is asking better of ourselves. And it's the repeated effort. It's that, as I said, with that little toddler example and getting our toddlers up on their feet and walking, it's that repeated effort of nurturing the desire, nurturing the belief, and nurturing the commitment. And we're going to have lots and lots of practice and opportunity in that space. What I would offer you is that, having indulged in the carrot cake over this past weekend with the holiday event, I wouldn't attach much to it. It was an opportunity for learning. It was an opportunity for you to recognize that, you know what, you have moments wherein you do slip into that side of indulgence, and that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything about your level of commitment. It doesn't mean anything about how your value as a human being and whether you're being a good mom and a good example. It has nothing to do with your worthiness. Rather, it's just an opportunity for you to learn and do some writing around how you want to feel and how that future self will show up at the next holiday event. Ask yourself the question, who do I want to be at my next holiday event or my next family get together? Who do I want to be? How can I pre-plan to support myself in this space? And what decisions will I make ahead of time to stand in my space and stand firm in honoring the commitment that I want to hold for myself? And then the last question I would offer you is, what is the result that this will create, and is it worth the trade-off? So again, Miley, for sure I'll be giving you this link for the replay so you can take advantage of those thought-provoking questions. I appreciate you bringing that example up. I think it's a very relevant one. And like I said, we get lots of opportunity to come back into that space and practice honoring our commitments, especially when it comes to holiday events and good foods and desserts and indulgent things such as that. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see, I'm looking down the side of our chat, and I have a question from Krista. Krista said, I know that my sister-in-law says mean things behind my back. I don't care to come on and be coached about this live. How do you recommend I handle this? Okay, so Krista, you have a circumstance in that your sister-in-law can say unkind things about you. And you know what? Unfortunately, a lot of times adults get to behave exactly as they choose to behave, and we don't get to control what they choose to do or not do. So your circumstance is that you have a sister-in-law, okay? You have a sister-in-law, and she makes behavior choices that are beyond your control. Now, interestingly enough, I would ask you what you're thinking when you know this takes place and what some of your thoughts are behind that. Let's see. Okay, it causes me to feel upset and I end up thinking poorly of her. Okay, I also end up thinking that I don't want to associate with her. Okay, so the thought behind this is your sister-in-law says unkind things behind your back. You end up thinking poorly of her and experience mean thoughts as well. Okay, so interesting. Now, in having this thought that I feel poorly about my sister-in-law and I experience mean things and mean thoughts about her as well, this, you know what? Having this thought is kind of like drinking poison for yourself and hoping that someone else experiences the negative end effect of the poison that you're fueling within yourself. A lot of times our thoughts, we think that they're, they can serve us for good and they're going to make us feel better, but they actually can be very toxic and they can put us in a really negative space of energy and a negative place with our emotions. And then we end up generating a negative outcome for ourselves. From this space of thinking poorly and having mean thoughts toward your sister-in-law, what is the feeling that generates for you? I want you to think for a moment and ask yourself, when you think I feel poorly toward my sister-in-law and I think mean things about my sister-in-law, drop me a response here really quick and tell me what the emotion is that comes about for you from this thought. Okay. So you end up experiencing disappointment and resentment. All right. Okay. And from disappointment and resentment, then how do you choose to show up within this relationship? Okay. All right. Krista has shared that when she feels disappointment and resentment, she withdraws from engaging and she doesn't seek to be involved with and participate in family affairs. Now, this action, what is this action going to create a result of for you in your life, Krista? How is that going to impact you and not your sister-in-law, but what are you going to get when you choose to be removed and disengaged from the relationship at hand? Okay, interesting. All right. Okay, the result that Krista is sharing is that she feels less connected to the family. And that's not really a great space to be in. I mean, ultimately, in our family relationships, we don't want to feel disconnected. We don't want to feel disengaged. And yet, if we have thoughts like feeling poorly toward our sister-in-law or having mean thoughts about our sister-in-law, then, of course, it's going to fuel the emotions of disappointment, resentment. We're not going to show up with our family members, and we are going to be having greater disconnection in those relationships that are available to us. Krista, I'm going to ask you what you want to think and what you want to experience with this sister-in-law, knowing that she gets to make her own choices and that she's going to probably continue to show up in the same way that she always has. Interestingly enough, when we become more aware of our thoughts and our feelings, it allows us to show up in a better way for ourselves and to make a higher and a better choice in who we want to be, even in very difficult circumstances. So think about that and ask yourself, in spite of her making those choices to say mean things or to be catty or, engage in gossip behind your back, who do you want to be in the relationship? And when you can clean your thoughts up around that and you can do your work around that, you're going to release yourself from carrying around these negative emotions of disappointment and resentment and anger. and it's really going to set you, it's going to create a greater sense of freedom for you in your life in becoming the person that you want to be. Yes, yes. Krista asked me really quick, could we talk on this another time and go into this at a deeper level? I would be very happy to speak to you on this at another time and dig into this a little bit more. It's a very, very thoughtful thing to bring up. I know a lot of times there's a lot of high emotion that centers around these things, and especially when it comes to the relationships that we're intimately connected with. Just remember, you always get to choose to be your very best self, even in the hardest of circumstances. And when we do that and we honor who we truly are and who we want to be in the relationship, then we can always feel good about our choices and we serve ourselves at the highest level. The other people in our lives, they get to be exactly who they are going to be. And a lot of times they have a lot of their own nonsense that goes on in their own space. And we just have to allow that to be part of their growing process and not necessarily get ourselves tangled up into their thoughts and their emotions. Certainly something is going on for your sister-in-law in her space that is fueling her to behave in that way. Okay, let's see. Melinda shares, I would love some coaching on my teen who doesn't take responsibility or accountability for poor choices and actions. Okay, Melinda, I'm going to unmute you and you can let me know if you want to speak to this at greater depth. You don't have to come on camera if you don't want to. Let's go ahead and unmute. Okay. Melinda, are you with me? And would you like to speak to this in greater detail? Okay, Melinda, are you there? I'm getting a lot of feedback on your side. Okay. Mindy, I'm sorry, your microphone, something's not connecting well and our connection isn't very clean. I'm getting a lot of like squeaky feedback. Let me speak to this as well. I'm going to read it again and I'm going to offer you some thoughts to consider. All right. And this kind of springboards off what we just entertained with Krista and her sister-in-law. It's so fascinating. And of course, I think when it comes to our family members and our relationships, that's where we're invited to do our most valuable work. That's where we are invited to really like put our best efforts forward. Okay. All right. I see that you're trying to engage one more time. Let's see. I'm going to unmute you one more time and we'll see if we can get a better connection. And if not, then I'll just speak to your comments. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, Melinda. It sounds like your mic is still having trouble. We're going to keep you muted because it's kind of a real it's a real high squeaking that's coming through with our audio between you and I on this connection. I'm sorry I won't be able to have you on with your microphone. Let me read it one more time, and then I'm going to speak to a concept that's called the manual. I think you're all going to find this very, very fascinating. Melinda shares, I would love to be coached about my teen that does not take responsibility or accountability for the poor choices and actions. Okay, and thank you. Yes, I can see that you're recognizing your mic's not working on your side as well. Okay, all right. In our lives with the people that we love and the people that we engage with, oftentimes we have our manuals about how we expect them to behave, how we want them to show up in our lives, and we want them to be doing certain things because we believe it will make us feel better, because it will guarantee our happiness and our emotional peace and our emotional state of peace and contentment and satisfaction, okay? So a lot of times we have manuals that we write for the people in our lives. And the title may read like something like, My Teen Makes Responsible Choices. And then we have chapters within this title of how we expect them to show up and behave and where our expectations fall for our teenager. Now, interestingly enough, the people in our lives oftentimes don't even know that these manuals exist. They have no idea that we have this unwritten, unpublished book of expectations and rules that we're holding them to, all right? And so it's quite fascinating because we create our own feelings of disappointment when they're not following the table of contents, and when they're not following the chapter guidelines and the outlines and the summaries that we have written for the individuals in our lives. Now, we all carry manuals around for the different people in our lives, whether it's a sister-in-law or a husband or a child. And in this scenario, where it is a child, there's a little bit of a differentiator when it comes to the manual. As parents, we do have a responsibility to set expectations, to communicate through our expectations for our children, and to make sure that they're making decisions that are going to be in their best interest. That being said, we need to be sure that we're coming from a really clean and clear space, and that our communication and the expectation that we're outlining for our children isn't colored. We need to make sure that we're really offering them opportunities and choices that are going to support their best interest, and that we're not making them conditional, that we're not attaching our love or their worthiness to the way that they show up in honoring those expectations or failing to honor those expectations. But for sure, when it comes to our children, because we are a parent in their lives, and we have responsibility over helping them to grow and develop in a responsible way, we need to share what these expectations are, but from a very clean space. So first, I would ask you to check your space and check your energy and make sure that you're really engaging with your teen from a thoughtful and purposeful space that works for both of you. You need to invite some feedback in this way and allow your teen to contribute, and allow your teen to express maybe the thoughts and feelings they have behind what they are doing or what they're not doing, and how that's working for your family as a whole. Okay, I see some more dialogue here on the side from Melinda, and she shares, confronted my teen in not taking responsibility. I wanted to punish him. You felt very angry, and as a result of having an emotion of anger, you were holding a grudge toward him. Okay, I think that's a very common experience for us as parents when we have frustration with our teenagers and our children. When we're fueled from anger, then a lot of times we pull back and we withdraw, and we do hold grudges. It's almost like we're keeping those follow-up notes within the manual of another area where they failed, and it's almost like we're accumulating a list or a record. So then we can use it against them and be like, see, I told you, you're not honoring your commitments, you're not being responsible. That's not going to create a really, really fantastic outcome for you. As a result of holding these grudges, I didn't show up with unconditional love. And I didn't show up in unconditional love because he failed to honor my expectation. Okay, so Melinda, it looks to me as if you are very self-aware of what the negative side of this experience and this exchange created for you and your teenager. And here again, as I shared with our friend Miley earlier in this call, this is an opportunity for you to be aware of the contrast. This is an opportunity for you to do a check and balance and to say to yourself, do I want more of this in my life? Do I want to have more feelings of anger and frustration with my teen? Or do I want to come into a space of more openness, of more unconditional love, and greater communication and acceptance? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you accept the fact that he wasn't being responsible and he wasn't making a good choice. But what I am saying is that you're coming into more of a space of acceptance, of loving him through his faults, with his faults. And as he's maturing into adulthood and going through these opportunities to learn how to navigate life and show up in a better way for himself. This is a really, really great scenario for you to spend some time with and ask yourself some thoughtful, reflective questions. Why was I disappointed? What would I like to have seen happen? How can I communicate my end goal to my teen so we can have a better outcome next time? I also want to offer to you, Melinda, that a lot of times when we feel feelings of anger, that is a surface level emotion. It really isn't true. It isn't 100% reflective of what our emotion is in conjunction with the with the disappointment that took place. Sit with that for just a moment with me, friends. Anger is a very reactionary emotion, and it's the first one that tends to come to the surface when we're frustrated and when we're experiencing frustration. But the more we can sit with that and we can allow ourselves to process that anger and ask ourselves some introspective questions, then it's like we're taking layers off of the onion. And when we start to peel back the layers, more often than not, we come into an emotion of disappointment. We come into a space of disappointment or feeling a lack of connection. Usually under anger sits those more raw and vulnerable emotions that are more reflective of what we truly desire with our loved ones. Okay, so Melinda, as you think through this scenario and as you invite yourself to get clean in your thinking and get clean with your teenager, ask yourself, what was the true emotion that was triggered from this circumstance? And then have that conversation with your teen. There's nothing wrong with having hard conversations with our loved ones, but it needs to come from a really clean space, and it needs to come from a space of love. And if you're still feeling angry and you still want to punish your teen and kind of like keep the list and add to and build the list of how they're not showing up and how they're failing in demonstrating responsibility, then you're not ready to have that conversation. And it can take some time. Allow time to be on your side. Allow time to meet yourself in a place of compassion and allowing time to help you work through your space so that you can really offer the very best of who you are to your teen and in loving him more fully and more abundantly. Thank you for sharing that. Melinda shares, I'm going to ponder on how to approach discipline with greater love in discussing his actions at a later time when I'm not angry. Better for me to clean up my thinking. Thank you for the great advice and the coaching through this. You're welcome, Melinda. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry we couldn't get you on the call with your mic and have that as a more open conversation. It's fascinating. And if you want to discuss this more in depth and at a later time, I'd be very, very happy to have a private appointment with you in working through this conversation and also offering you some more resources on the manual and how we show up for our loved ones and where our expectations sit with our loved ones and how we can clean up our side of the relationship so that we can drop that manual or get it into a healthier and cleaner space. Okay, do we have any further questions that we want coaching on? I see a few people here on the side who are quietly observing. So fun to have you here. I hope that you are really enjoying this experience and that you're enjoying this takeaway. In building upon Mindy's last example, I had a personal experience not too long ago with my own daughter. And you're going to love this. She said to me on a summer afternoon last summer, I must have been doing something that was just like kind of agitating her in a uncomfortable way, because she said to me, she was like, "Mom, you just think you're all that." And I was like, and it was definitely said with a lot of sass and a lot of judgment. And it really triggered me. I don't know what I was doing in that moment that was provoking my teenager. Teenagers give us such great material for work, don't they? They provide us, they provide us with that mirror of where we're succeeding and failing in parenting. And in that moment, she was letting me know that she didn't think I was a very great parent. And so she said to me, "Mom, you think you're all that." And I paused and I really thought to myself, I was like, my daughter is so disrespectful. I am so angry with her. You know, she is so ungrateful for all the things I do in her life. And from this thought process, it fueled me to feel more anger as well toward my daughter. And from this feeling of anger, then I had the same response that Mindy had in her scenario. I didn't want to engage. I wanted to hold on to this grudge. And for sure, I wasn't going to be handing out any cash to support any of her weekend activities. I was going to really dig in my heels and really just like hold on tightly to my anger and my frustration around her being so disrespectful. As I paused and as I allowed myself to sit with that experience, I realized that as a result of having this thought and this emotion and choosing those actions, the result would only come back around to serve me in a negative way. The only thing that I would end up taking away from being in this space with my daughter would be greater disconnect, greater feelings of anger toward my daughter, and there would be a damaging impact, a negative backlash to our relationship. I'm not going to say that I solved that all in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. It took me a good afternoon to kind of like work through that. I think I even purposefully left the house and ran some errands so I could be in my own space and really process what had taken place. As I gave myself the gift of time, and as I gave myself the gift of space, and also thinking about what I really wanted to feel toward my daughter, I was able to come out in a very different experience, and I was able to create a very different takeaway for she and I, even in spite of that disrespectful comment being made to me. When I looked at it more objectively and I opened myself up to what possibly could be going on for my daughter and in her life, I had a really different set of insights, emotions, and responses. And the way that this scenario ended up wrapping up was, of course, my daughter still had shared this comment with me about her judgment toward my actions. And the judgment was, Mom, you think you're all that. And in recognizing that she made that comment to me, I really had the thought, you know what? My daughter's in a very transitional space right now, and she has a lot of things that she's trying to process in her life. And this was true in this moment. She was getting ready to graduate. She was getting ready to box her things up and leave home for the first time and figuring out how she fit in the world. She had so many moving parts going on in her life. And really in the big picture, when I was able to sit in this and be reflective of what she and I share and what our relationship is on the spectrum, the bigger spectrum of things, I know that she loves me and I know that I love her. So by being more reflective and in tune with this thought of my daughter's experiencing a lot of transition right now, she's got a lot of moving parts in her life, I was able to choose an emotion of compassion. From this place of compassion, I came home from running my errands and I was able to approach her and I was able to say, you know what, sweetheart, I know you've got a lot going on in your life. I love you, even if I'm all that, even if I'm acting like I'm all that, and sometimes I annoy you, know that I love you unconditionally. And I was able to put my arms around her and give her a hug, and it softened all of the agitation that existed between us. It really just was like taking in a deep breath of air and letting out a big sigh. And she was able to let go of her agitation. I wasn't meeting her from judgment. I wasn't meeting her in anger. I wasn't meeting her from a place of being disengaged and holding back in my love. And from that space and giving her a measure of compassion and reaching out with the hug and just acknowledging that, you know what, she's got a lot going on in her life right now and I still love her. The result was that we were able to have a happier afternoon. She showed up in a better way. She was more pleasant. She wasn't feeling all prickly and agitated. And she wasn't also meeting me with outbursts of anger and sass and disrespect. It wasn't an easy thing for me to do. And it required that I asked a better response from myself. And it required that I process my thoughts and my emotions as well. And I asked myself, what is the result that I really want on the other side of what just happened? And so, you know what, I was able to do my thought work. I was able to ask myself those reflective questions to create something different. Is it okay if our teenagers meet us with sass and disrespect? No, of course not. But we get to choose how we want to respond. And in that moment, and for that scenario, I knew I didn't need to make a molehill into a mountain. I also knew that it wasn't a true reflection of the relationship that we share, and that it's not truly how she feels about me and the dynamic that truly existed between us. So I really hit the pause button on that one, my friends, and I really allowed myself to do the work and sit in the discomfort and to take the time to process and show up in a better way so that I could, do the housekeeping and clean out that clutter and make something different and better of what had transpired. Friends, we are at the end of our hour. It has been a pleasure to be with you. I hope that if you wanted to get coached, but you didn't raise your hand, I hope you'll reach out to me through an email or maybe set an appointment wherein I can come in and speak with you privately one-on-one. I know we had a lot of friends sitting here listening quietly on the sides, and it was so fun to know that you were here and that you were engaging in this quiet, observant way. Coaching is a phenomenal experience. It's a really powerful opportunity to invite yourself to think differently, invite yourself to feel different emotions, and to challenge yourself on those thoughts and those beliefs that you are considering a truth in your life. Is what you're thinking, is what you're feeling really true? Are you adding some story to it? Are you indulging in the drama behind it? And is there a way that you could like up level and fine tune your thinking to create better results for yourself, first and foremost, and then for the people that you experience your life and your relationships with as an end result? Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the brief teaching experience at the beginning of our call on finding your compelling reason for change and honoring the commitments in your life. Again, send me an email if you would like to have a copy of this worksheet. It's a wonderful way to get clean in your thoughts, to put a little more fuel behind your fire and create something new and better for you today. It's been my pleasure to be with you. Have a beautiful day. And if you would like this replay, drop me a note as well, and I will be sure to send you the link. Take care.